Hey, and welcome to a collection. I don't know if you call it an update, whatever you'd call it, but this is my entire Twilight Time Blu-ray collection as of the end of 2015. And now I'm not going to present these in any particular order. They are just how I pulled them. So first off, we've got Man in the Dark 3D. Yes, this is a 3D film in 3D. Black and white, kind of a thriller. The 3D is really not used until like the climax. The climax is where the 3D really comes in this, and at that point it's really, really good. So if you're into 3D movies and you have a system to play them and that's your thing, that's definitely something to pick up. Sexy Beast. Yes, this is one of those films that's not for, I mean, check out that. Check that. Look at that. Yeah, it's not for everybody. It's a little, I don't even know how you describe it. It's a crime film. But it's a very, very weird type of film. It's not your standard film, and as such it's not for everybody. That's I'll leave it at that. Body Double. Yes, Brian De Palma's Body Double. One of those films where, again, I enjoy the film. I think it's a good film. It's not his best film, but it's one of those things that's not for everybody, and I think that's one of the reasons why it doesn't get as much hoopla as some of his other films, but it's definitely worth checking out if you're a De Palma fan. Yeah, I definitely recommend at least giving it a shot once. Oliver, this is the classic, you know. You want more, Oliver story. Musical, British film, I believe. Yeah, just a classic. I use classic a lot. That's because film is classic. Yes. Night of the Living Dead. This is the 1990 version of Night of the Living Dead. And, yeah, one of those ones that people really, really want from the Twilight Time series. In Like Flint. You like your James Bond? Well, here's some James Bond-esque film. Yeah, In Like Flint. It's good fun. It's not James Bond, but if you're into that spy genre, then In Like Flint is definitely worth checking out. As is Our Man Flint. Yes, they are, you know, part and parcel. They go together. If you get one, you got to get the other, right? So what I say about one, I can say about the other without getting into too much detail, of course, because they are not the same film. And not even the same sort of tone. Next one you may not think that you'd find in my collection, and that's Sleepless in Seattle. But, you know, I'm not a rom-com fan. In fact, I hate most rom-coms, but there are some rom-coms that are classics of that genre. I think Sleepless in Seattle kind of fits in there. Just Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan, the chemistry between them, and you know, the story that goes on here, relating back to a rom-com of old. I won't give anything away, but it's you know, the nods to the past, putting it into the present, and just the chemistry between these two totally works. Oh yes. The Golden Voyage of Sinbad, some Harryhausen classic cinema right here, and a must-own if you ask me, in everybody's collection, in whatever format you can, as is Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger. Yes, more Harryhausen, more Sinbad. You love your adventure films, you love your action-adventure, you love your Harryhausen stop-motion. Totally need to get both of those. A film that apparently is going to get re-released, and that is Thunderbolt and Lightfoot, the Clint Eastwood film. If you're a Clint Eastwood fan, it's definitely worth checking out, but it's not necessarily one of the best action films out there despite having Clint Eastwood in it. It's one of those films where most people don't seem to remember it, oddly enough. But yeah, it's got a great cast. I think it's a great, a good fun story, so I definitely had to pick it up. As well as Bye Bye Birdie, which has nothing to do with Clint Eastwood or action films. It is another musical, and this one has, nostalgia to me in terms of doing plays and stuff in school. Bye Bye Birdie was one of them, and it's one of those films that growing up, just the music and everything about it was. Well, I've gone on, and I think when I picked this up, I went on the whole spiel of the story of why I had to get that, because Bye Bye Birdie doesn't seem like something that you'd see me picking up, right? Yes, The Blue Lagoon. This is definitely a different film. I remember seeing it when I was, one of those budding teenagers, and the nudity in this was totally like, wow, okay, that's hot. But it's the idea of being stranded as kids and growing up on a deserted island and surviving that got me to want to pick it up when, I was an adult. And so, yeah, I don't think I've seen Blue Lagoon 2, but I hear it's not nearly as good as this. And this one isn't a great film, but it is slightly controversial because of the nudity involved. Yes, The Vanishing. The Vanishing. This one's with, was it Kiefer Sutherland and Jeff Bridges, and it's got its problems. It's a little choppy in terms of story, but it still a great. Sandra Bullock, I think, Sandra Bullock's the other one in this. Young Sandra Bullock. This is from 1993. Yes, something everybody needs to own. This is the 30th anniversary release of Fright Night. See the clear case. You don't necessarily need to get this edition, but getting Fright Night, you must. This has got to be in everybody's collection. It is such a fun horror flick, and totally worth checking out. A film a lot of people don't know, Hard Times. This is Walter Hill's debut film. And as you can see, it's got Charles Bronson in it. It's sort of like a pit fighter movie. It's Depression era, and he's essentially fighting for money to survive. And it's James Coburn. If you can't recognize him, James Coburn plays like his manager type thing. And it's just the fight sequences, considering when this was made, really good, and just the look at that time period is quite fantastic. What else we got here? Yes, The Fury, one of the early horror films that they put out. This is another Brian De Palma flick, and another De Palma flick that people tend to not really jump on board with, but yeah, it's like Carrie. It's all, it's about psychic powers. Well, it's not psychic, but, whatever. Telekinesis or something like that. Very different. Well, not very different, but interesting. Early stuff. Totally worth checking out. What's the year on this one? 1978. I really enjoy that. Yes, a film that probably one of my favorites from the Twilight Time catalog, Mind Warp. Yes, this is a warped sci-fi / horror film with Bruce Campbell in it. And if you're a Bruce Campbell devotee, then Mind Warp has got to be in your collection. But I do recommend it to anybody who's into sci-fi and horror fantasy type stuff. The Train. This is a fantastic wartime film, black and white. It's from 1964. I think John Frankenheimer directed it, and it's who was it? Burt Lancaster is the one of the star of the film. It's a fantastic film. Really, really, really well done. Yes. Are you into David Lynch? You're gonna have to get yourself some Wild at Heart from Twilight Time, because yeah, Nicolas Cage, Laura Dern. It's classic Lynch. Classic Lynch. Very, very different. Very, very weird. Yes. The Only Game in Town. It's got, Liz Taylor and Warren Beatty. And honestly, I don't care much for this film. I don't even remember why it's in my collection. I may have gotten it for free. I don't know. I may have bought it. Either way, I don't think this is much of anything. People who are into romance films and that sort of thing will probably find some enjoyment in this. Definitely plays more like a chick flick than most of the other stuff I have in my collection. But yeah, with I think it's the 2 stars in this film that tend to bring people to watch it at least once. Yes. Before the remake, there was the original, The Driver. Yeah, another Walter Hill film. This is... It's interesting. It's not very good. I mean, it's early action film. And you can see where a lot of today's action sort of stems forth with in terms of driving cars and dealing with that, and the way camera work in the past compares to new. Like if you compare the two, the new Driver to the old Driver, just the way they deal with the camera and the angles and such, and the editing is completely different. This is a favorite of mine, Enemy Mine. I remember me and my sister still. Well, I don't know. I haven't said it in a while, but she used to, because it would be on. I think it would be on like television a lot. Though I do believe we rented it first, probably on beta, and what is it? Da Witch. She used to say that all the time, and yeah, I love this. This is an amazing. Oddly enough, it's about an alien and human. It's about racism, even though it's about alien species and stuff like that. Overcoming racism, overcoming your hatred, and learning to love your fellow alien species, or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, definitely highly recommend Enemy Mine. Check that out. Double bill here. The Thunderbirds movies, Thunderbirds Are Go and Thunderbirds 6. Play out like very, very long episodes of the television show. Nothing too special with them as a result. They are literally just the television show in long form, and even the the adventure and action in these aren't that great. But you know what? It's got the Thunderbirds, it's got the Super Marionation, and I love that. Classic. Some of these Twilight Time releases, you're just like, how are they getting these things? Rollerball is one of those, like, I mean, you can find the new Rollerball like everywhere, and it's garbage compared to the classic Rollerball from 1975. Wow, you know what? This takes place in 2018. We are like 2 years away from some Rollerball, guys. I am so looking forward to some Rollerball on television. Here's one. Something that most people, if you're into the thriller, mystery, horror genre, then you should be into The Disappearance. This has got Donald Sutherland. It's slower paced, but very well paced in terms of telling the story. It's very consistent, and it is one of those things that just has that feel and that ambiance that just seems to work for some reason. Yes. H.G. Wells' First Men on the Moon. Another Harryhausen. This one we're going to sci-fi world with space and, essentially, living on the moon. Film I didn't know anything about until I got that, and that's Experiment in Terror. And I was quite surprised. You know what? I'm finding that I'm, as I get older, as much as I want, just popcorn flicks and just watching the action unfold, some of these old films that I didn't enjoy growing up, that I hated when they were on television, and my mom might put them on and stuff like that, the old black and whites, I'm finding the stories are so good in them that, now that I'm an adult, I'm really enjoying them a lot more. And Experiment in Terror is exactly one of those types of films. Yes, if you're into the films of Fox like Cleopatra, the big epic historical things, then you should check out Demetrius and the Gladiators. It is, before Ridley did the Gladiator, this was one of the big ones. This one, Spartacus, was another big one. But yeah, if you like your period pieces, you like your big sets and stuff like that, this is definitely worth checking out and probably adding to your collection. Zulu. I believe this is a true story, actually. Yes, the Battle of Rorke's Drift. So it's about, it's sort of like an Alamo situation where there's a small amount of British soldiers who essentially get trapped and descended upon by like thousands of Zulu warriors, and their attempt to, survive. It's really, really, really good. The Blob. I love The Blob. This is not the original The Blob. This is the remake of The Blob. But it's weird. This one has, like, in terms of the gore factor, this one definitely steps it up. But I love them both because I love the way they managed to accomplish the Blob itself, right? Like how they pull that off, this killer ooze going around and eating people and stuff like that. This is obviously the more graphic and gory of the two films, but I love both of them equally, so I couldn't pass up the Blob. The Other, another early horror film from Twilight Time, releasing, not everybody's cup of tea. It's a little slow. It doesn't have a lot going for it in terms of gore or fear or suspense, but it is about the other, and I think it was sort of like the twist in the film was what kind of made people recognize this film, even though I don't think they recognized it too much. Before the remake, there was the original, The Mechanic. Again, Charles Bronson in this one. Early action film, using boats and cars and stuff like that. About, the job, the mechanic. Not a guy who fixes your car, but it's a term that I won't give away because, you don't need to know. But he fixes things, just not necessarily, how you would normally think. And it's, again, it's another film where if you take this and put it to the remake and you go, ooh, you know what, this is early action, and in today's market it's like, it doesn't really work. It's a little choppy, the editing and the way the story's told, and the new one is a lot more smooth and slick and stuff like that, but it's a great film to do that comparison. And like I said, early action, if that's where your heart lies, that's definitely one you gotta have. Another classic historical pick, Khartoum. This one has what was it? I think it's a tale of a... Oh man, it's been a while. I think there's a big battle in it, and I don't know. It's some action adventure film that I can't remember a lot about just at the moment. But I do remember, because I hadn't seen it, at least not that I could remember, until I got this release. And when I watched it, I was like, wow, that's awesome. I'm so glad I grabbed that. Because it definitely sounded like something I would like, and it turned out I did. And finally, the last of my Twilight Time, Jules Verne's Journey to the Center of the Earth. This is the original. I believe this is the re-release. I think it is. Might have been one of those films that sold out and they re-released it. Which does happen. Twilight Time releases are generally limited to 3,000. Some of them get up to 5,000 for the more popular titles, but they have reprinted a couple. And some of these other ones were their reprints, their re-releases. And, you know, that got some people upset, but you know what? I was able to get them otherwise without having to spend, you know, $200. And for, you know, for the people who are the collectors who want to make some money off of it, that sucks. For the people who, you know what, didn't manage to get them the first go around, yeah, we're happy. So either way, you get releases. And yeah, like I said, this is another Jules Verne tale. I think it's presented in CinemaScope. Yes, CinemaScope. And the nice thing about, you know, the Twilight Time is most of the releases, I don't think all of the releases, but most of them have an isolated score track. So if you like the music from the film, you can literally just play it like it's an album. Yeah, it's awesome. So this was a 4K restoration of the film, so it looks pretty. So yeah, that is my Twilight Time Blu-ray collection as of the end of 2015. There will be more collection, I don't know what you call these, updates, showing off, somethings in the future. So stay tuned. Till next video, take care. Have a good one.